I supposed to do something like this?
But I don't like buying first generation stuff. A year. And that went really well.
Congratulations.
We're gonna have fun.
Did you mail those extra 2 or 3 in, man?
Huh?
Did you mail those extra 2 or 3 in?
Yeah, right.
Early enough? Or late enough?
And they were postcards too.
It's not like I need to use it.
We have, is this thing hearing first?
Yes. The hearing is for the zoning change.
Yeah, you really
For the
should.
zoning board, yeah, okay. You're not ready, okay, that's fine, take your time.
You know what it is? If it's working.
Okay, so,
Those things never got rezoned, those two. Never got sold. I mean, the bank,
Don't do
these. They
the
didn't.
most I can do is figure out how to upload these videos.
Aren't those the two that
There's a lot of.
This is our two and our
yeah, well, we have our 2 and our 1 all over.
No, but these are the, aren't these the? No, I was thinking that was the, where the town center. Oh, then.
It's almost to you.
This section is zoned R2. It should be.
Oh,
This
Well,
business.
that's
And
where,
we discussed that.
that's where,
Is. So you're someone, and the
Yeah, that's four,
business,
4:30.
yes, from staff to say,
oh, okay.
okay?
After work, it'd be 7:30 in the morning. And I can
The Village of Hainesville public board meeting, actually public hearing, I'm sorry, of the zoning board will now come to order on Tuesday, August 28th at 7:06 p.m. If we could please have a roll call.
Mayor Linda Soto.
Present?
Trustees Darrenowski.
Here.
Kreis.
Here.
Duderstein. Here. Barrett is absent. Daly.
Here.
And Hahn.
Okay, we do have a quorum, and if I could have a motion for approval of the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Kreis.
Aye.
Duderstein. Daly.
Aye.
And Hahn.
Motion carried. Okay, at this time we'll have an overview of the purpose and procedure for public hearing. Al, can you? Yes, please.
A lot of times village attorney does this, so I'll play those.
Jim was unable to be here, and he had said he had all the confidence in the world in you. You've had
Famous last words.
famous experience.
But you're not allowed to charge his rates.
Well, the purpose of this public hearing is that there is an application for a zoning map amendment. The property is located on the north side of Route 134, west of Fairlawn Drive. The purpose is that they give notice to the property owners and all the surrounding properties. They have the right to come in and make their comments and provide public input at the public hearing. There's also opportunities for others to give testimony regarding the standards for a map amendment for a rezoning. And then the village board will take all of the testimony and comments from the public into consideration, and then they can make their recommendation, and they are required to do a findings of fact report that they provide to the village board. The zoning board provides to the village board, and that'll be of a public record as well. In case anyone questions the change in the zoning, you'll have a public record. I believe that's a good summary of what the
Yes,
purpose is.
I think that is. And then we have a notice requirements review, and our clerk will cover that.
Right, the notice was published in the Daily Herald on April 9th for 1 day. There were 35 letters mailed out, certified and return receipt. They were mailed out on April 9th. We received 28 back and 7 have not been returned yet. The public hearing sign was posted out front on Monday, April 20th. All the requirements per our village ordinance for public hearings were met.
Okay, at this time, the clerk will be issuing the oath of office for anyone who plans to testify. So if there is anyone that is in the audience that even thinks there's a chance that you may want to speak, make a comment, or ask a question, I recommend you take the oath along with us.
Please all stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do swear or affirm
I do swear or affirm
to testify truthfully
to testify truthfully
before the zoning board
before the zoning board
of the village of Hainesville
of the village of Hainesville
during the hearing on the zoning map amendment.
the zoning map amendment.
Thank you.
And thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, at this time we'll have a presentation of the petitioner's testimony.
I've been asked to present testimony on behalf of the petitioner, which is the village. I am the village's planning and zoning consultant. My name is Al Maiden. I have over 40 years of experience as a planning and zoning consultant. Do this several nights a week. Many zoning ordinances will have standards for things such as special uses or variations, but they don't always have standards for a change in the map from one zoning classification to another. And the village zoning ordinance does not have those standards. However, there has been case law in the state of Illinois on previous cases that were litigated, and the courts have come up with approximately 7 or 8 standards that need to be met before a change in zoning should be granted. I'd like to go through those standards just briefly. The first standard is the existing uses and zoning of nearby property. The subject area is on the north side of Route 134, west of Fairlawn Drive. If you look at the zoning in the area, all of the properties to the east are in the village's B1 business zoning classification. These are the only parcels that are fronting on Route 134 that are not part of the B1 zoning classification. Looking at the existing uses, many of the uses in there, some of the properties are vacant, but most of the businesses in there, or most of the uses in there, are of a business nature. There was a concern, I mentioned the village zoning map, and that is from 2005. We did go back when we discovered this question in the zoning pattern. We did go back and look at previous zoning maps from the 1990s. We were not to consult to the village on either one of these zoning maps. And in the 1990s, the line between the zoning classifications was so wide, it basically covered up these properties. So when they did the new map in 2005, it was selected that they use the roadway boundary as dividing the property. This could be looked at as just nothing more than a mapping error. And I think as we go through the other standards, you'll see that I think it is appropriate to consider the B1 zoning. The second standard is that you describe the care with which the community has undertaken to plan its land use and development. This village has adopted a comprehensive plan for the future development. They adopted it October 26, 2010. There is a future land use map, figure 15, which is included in the comprehensive plan. That future land use map shows this subject area, these groups of properties, to be in a commercial category. It's actually red in color on the map, and red means commercial, as well as the properties to the east along Route 134. They also have an existing land use map at that time of 2010, and it did show that some of the properties were existing business uses and some of the properties were vacant properties at that time, similar to today. And then finally, in Appendix B of that plan, the Village of Hainesville's active business list. At that time, it noted that 2 of the addresses in this subject area were being used for businesses. So you can see that the comprehensive plan was very carefully considered as the existing uses in the area.
I told you.
And the mayor is...
You mentioned the right area, and I realized we didn't have the zoning map in here. So if anybody wants to look at the area, we do have it. I'm going to put it over here.
It's kind of like Vanna White, she gets to try to
in all seriousness, no. So we're talking right here.
Right here.
Right? So let me go around. We don't have that big a crowd. I'm going to go show everybody what the area I'm talking about. Yeah, I know you know. Tom, you know, right? Yeah. There are existing commercial businesses now there. This little picture right over there. Yeah, little picture. I'm done with my in a moment. They'll be here if anybody else would like to come up and take a look at it.
Thank you. The next standard is the extent to which property values are diminished by the current zoning restrictions and the value that would be added by the requested zoning change. Now, I make it clear I am not a real estate appraiser. When I analyze these standards, it's from a planning and zoning standpoint. From a planning and zoning standpoint, one of the concerns is this area technically right now is part of a residential zoning category. That makes the existing business uses legal non-conforming. But you are not supposed to be expanding or making major improvements to legal non-conforming uses. And that is something that has a diminishment of the value to the property owners, but it also diminishes the value to the village, the other local real estate taxing bodies, all of them, the schools, everybody that is taxing these properties. If they cannot make improvements to their property because of these zoning restrictions, the assessed valuation tends to go down, the properties aren't maintained, and that is something that there is an extent of property value diminishment by these current zoning restrictions. The fourth standard is how does the zoning change affect? It's the general one, health, safety, morals, welfare, compared to the hardship imposed on the individual property owners. And again, it's very similar to the previous standard where the hardship on the property owners are, even if they want to improve their properties, they really can't. They're prevented by the non-conforming use requirements. And that affects the health, safety, and welfare by having properties that are not well maintained. And by granting this rezoning, those concerns with the legal non-conforming status go away, and individuals can maintain, improve, and even expand their properties within the restrictions of the zoning ordinance. The other standard is to describe the suitability of the property for the proposed uses. I think the fact that it has been used for commercial in the past is an indication that it is suitable. But really, when you look at this property versus other properties in the village, These properties on 134 take their character from that regional roadway. The other properties in the village often take their character from a local residential street. So this property is suitable for the proposed uses of commercial. Describe the public need for the proposed use. Again, this sort of relates to the need to improve these properties, that this is not only a benefit to the general property owners, but the public in general. That way they see improved properties in the area, and others will go along and keep up and improve their property, but also to benefit all the local taxing districts that do benefit from real estate taxes and assessed valuation in their area. The seventh and the last standard is that, if applicable, the length of time the property has been vacant as zoned in the context of land development in the area. Well, as I indicated, some of the properties are vacant, but they're sort of infill properties. They're between other commercial uses. In the context of land development, that's what we've been seeing in this area the last 10 years or more. You're seeing infill development, whether it's along the 120 corridor, whether it's along the intersection of 134 and 120 with the gas station. You're seeing these uses infill and become more commercial over time. And I believe that the fact that just because these have been vacant for a number of years does not have a negative impact on the standard. They will, if they're rezoned to commercial, they will at some point in time be developed with infill commercial. With that, I think you're ready to go to public comments, and then there are provisions for you to do findings of fact report.
Okay, so at this time, we will take the testimony of any interested party. Is there anybody that would like to address Tom? Please step forward to the mic and state your name and address for the record.
I have properties at 394 and 396 Main Street.
And state your name.
And Don Sputus, Cole Properties. And they're, both of them are apartments with each have a storefront in the bottom and the front. I just wonder how the zoning is going to affect, because they're talking about residential, the apartments. There's 5 apartments and there's 2 storefronts. One storefront's vacant, the other storefront's a beauty shop.
Well, you mentioned the key factor. Actually, you are compliant with the B1 commercial zoning as long as you have a storefront commercial property. Al, correct me if I'm wrong. Then our code lists that our apartments are allowed to be like, they're on the second floor, aren't they, Tom?
Yeah, one's in the back. They're both.
Back and then
Back
above. Back and above, yeah, but they're storefront properties.
Right.
So, as listed in our code, that's an current allowed use under the B1 zoning.
Yes, you do allow for, how many units are there?
There's 3 units in one and 2 in the other. 394 is 3 units.
Of residential, 5 units of residential?
5, yeah.
Okay.
2 buildings, 2 buildings.
2 buildings.
2 buildings, 3 apartments in one, 2 in the other.
The use may be, I haven't looked at the lot size and zone and parking and things of that nature, but even with that, is once the use is conforming, you can still make improvements by doing that. If you left it the way it is, it's definitely non-conforming and you couldn't make improvements.
So I think the question is a combination legal?
Yes.
Fit within
Yeah,
the
he's questioning, is it,
Let me double check that then.
yeah. Because he had called the clerk the other day, and I looked it up in our zoning, and I felt that it was compliant.
Yeah.
I think it is, but if you've looked it up, then that's fine.
Yeah, and you can double check me, Al, you're the planner.
Let's see.
It's towards the bottom under B1, where it talks about apartments being allowed on a commercial property.
Right. That's a permitted use, it's not a special use, you're right.
It's a permitted use.
Apartments above ground floor and only as accessory uses connected to the building primarily designed to use for one of the above uses and then the above uses of the commercial uses. So you are allowed to have the apartments above the ground floor.
And it would be correct to say that he should have that zoning, that we want to make it B1 versus how it is currently now, which is, we believe, a Scribner's error.
Right. If you stay zoned residential, then anything you do on the ground floor would be, for the commercial, would be non-conforming. And that affects things, even when you want to do expansion of parking. Many times there'll be some complementary relationships between the parking for the commercial and your apartments above. That would be, non-conforming in the residential district.
So I think the English translation is, if we go to B1, your apartments are fine.
That's what I'm,
Okay. All right.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Tom, thanks so much. Is there anybody that would like to provide any testimony, comments at this time? Okay, now we move down to presentation of villages testimony. Does that mean just reading the addresses affected into the record?
Basically, yes. And I
Okay.
think normally this procedure is used when the village is of the applicant.
Okay. Well, I know that Jim wanted for the record, and there's going to be some redundancy because I'm going to have to repeat this later, most likely. The addresses that are affected, that we're talking about amending the zoning, is 372 Main Street, also previously known as 172 Fairlawn Drive, prior to February 1st of this year. 380 Main Street, 384 Main Street, 386 Main Street, 390 Main Street, 394 Main Street, 396 Main Street, and 232 Main Street. Those are the properties that are being discussed in this hearing. And at this time, we do have a facts of finding report.
Findings of fact.
Findings of fact. Kathy and I have been turning that around all day. It's kind of amusing. But it is a findings of fact. And after review of the application submitted by the petitioner and the information and testimony that we've heard and discussed, the Zoning Board of Appeals, I as the head, make the following findings of fact: that the proposed zoning map amendment to change the zoning of the subject properties as I listed on the north side of Route 134 and west of Fairlawn Drive in the village of Hainesville be changed from the R2 district to the B1 commercial business district meets the Illinois case law standards that must be met before a zoning map may be amended. See LaSalle National Bank of Chicago versus Cook County, Chapter 12, Illinois, 2D40. Wow. Okay. If anybody wants to copy that, I have that up here. So at this time, I would like to ask for a motion that the zoning board approve that we make a recommendation to change the zoning at the regular board meeting, which follows this hearing.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Crease.
Aye.
Duberstein.
Aye.
Daley.
Aye.
And Hein.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay. Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is adjourned at 7:27 p.m. We will roll over into our regular board meeting momentarily.
I know. What's next? I have everything. So,
The regular Village of Hainesville board meeting will now come to order on Tuesday, April 28th at 7:28 p.m. If everybody will please rise and I'll lead us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Linda Soto.
Still here.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Still here.
Crease. Duberstein. Here. Barrett still absent. Daly.
Here.
And Hines.
Here.
This may be a message from trustee Barrett. That's the only reason I'm checking this box. All right, he'll be here in about 15, 20 minutes.
Motion to adjourn.
Bad chance. Okay. Motion for approval of agenda. We are. Roll call.
Do we have a second?
Yeah.
John.
Sorry.
John.
We are at quorum.
John.
Trustees Darrenowski,
Aye.
Kreis,
Aye.
Duberstein, Daly,
Aye.
and Hine.
Aye.
Motion carried.
At this time, we'll take public comments. If you want to address the board, you should have filled out a green slip and turned it into our clerk. Any takers? No. Come on. Going, gone. Okay. Omnibus vote agenda. Do we have a motion?
So.
Second. Aye.
Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski,
Aye.
Kreis,
Aye.
Duberstein, Daly,
Aye.
and Hine.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to mayor announcements and report. I have some sad news to report. I just found out within the last day or so, longtime resident Erlen Johnson passed. I don't know the full details, but I did speak with his wife briefly this morning. He will be cremated. No service has been set. They'll be having a memorial service at a later date. So as soon as those arrangements are made, I will let everyone know. Johnsons have been with this community quite a long time. You may be familiar with the Green Book that was published in 1976. They both served on the Bicentennial Committee, and Joanne published a book about reflections of the past and the history of Hainesville, and we have a couple copies here in the Village Hall. You can go to the libraries and find the books in the reference section. They're limited copies, so they don't allow you to take out the book. But there's some neat facts in there that we continue to strive to bring out and make people aware of. It is official. The county clerk finally announced the results, and I know our clerk will be giving you a more detailed update maybe on that. But our winners are from the recent April 7th election. Dina Hine, Kevin Barrett, and George Duberstein, who's in the audience here tonight. Our swearing-in ceremony will be next week, May 5th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. So we hope you can make it. Sadly, we will be saying goodbye to Trustee Wally Kreis, who has served this board very well and who will be sorely missed, Wally. So don't be a stranger. We want you to be out there at public comment time. We'll be looking for you. Last week, I attended or participated. I ran 2 classes at Career Day on careers in municipal government, local government, village administration, public works, planning, such as Al Maiden, engineering, and I was thrilled to say I was filled to capacity in both classes, so we had a good time. And many thanks to our vendors who provided me with goodies to pass out to the kids, because if all else fails, if they walk away with something fun, you're a hit. But I think we had a lot of fun, and government, at least at the local level, maybe that state level, was good employment, so had some good kids in the class. And then just a couple quick updates and we'll get going. Monday, I, along with our police chief, Commander Myra, some of our fire officials, and Jeff Gately, we met with Larry Dennison from the Northbrook Sports Club. Reminder, in June, June 22nd through 28th, they will be hosting the U.S. Open for skeet and clay shooting, which is quite an honor. Out of that week, it's really 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that have the main activity. We will be putting an article in the newsletter to give people a heads up that it'll be a little bit noisier those days, but it's not a permanent situation, and we should be very honored that the U.S. Open is being held here, because we expect about 1,200 participants. It brings a lot of good economic money, change, sales tax revenue to our area, so we're happy to have them. And I'm happy to say they're working very well with our police and fire about having adequate public safety, crowd control, traffic control. So I think things will go very well there as always. And that's all I have at this time. Is there any other announcements from the clerk or any of the standing committees at this time?
Possibly a reminder of the days of the villages hall is going to be closed because of training.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's
Sure.
the 13th.
We will be closed Wednesday, May 13th through Friday, May 22nd due to the software in-house training. Is there anything else? And then we will, our special meeting, like the mayor said, the swearing in will be on the 5th. We will not have a meeting on the 12th. So we'll be meeting on the 5th of May and the 26th of May.
And just to add to the thoughts on the closing, of course we've been publishing this in every newsletter, giving expanded updates. It's been on the website. People hopefully are aware. We have a notice out now on the side of the Village Hall, and I believe at the Dropbox as well. So, certainly during that time, if you have an issue, as always, you can go on the website and put a request for service. You can leave a phone message. People will be checking things, and things will be followed up on. As always, if you have a public works emergency and the Village Hall is not closed, you should call 911 immediately. That's who you call if you have a public works emergency. They will get in contact with Jeff or our contractors, depending on what the emergency is. So certainly the village is covered, and you will be safe.
This is also on our website on the front page as an announcement. So.
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
We had our village cleanup on Sunday because the weather was inclement on Saturday. We had 7 adults and 2 children and collected unbelievable amount of trash, including 2 tires, a table, and heaven knows what else. And we really appreciate everyone's help. We'll put the names in the newsletter, in the next newsletter, thanking those that helped with the cleanup. Unfortunately, the National Honor Society folks were all tied up with other activities, so they weren't able to help. A note from the Wetland Committee. You may have noticed that the field by Deer Point along 120 has been vacant for several years, and just to remind you, it was due to the fact that the herbicide that was used to get rid of the phragmites, which are a terrible invasive species, lasted longer in the soil than we expected. But now it seems that the few plants that we put in there have survived, and so we will be planting numerous trees and shrubs, and that's the beginning of the project to restore it. And all the things that will be put in are all native species. For the Great Age Club, on the 5th of May, we're taking a trip to Adlai Stevenson's estate in Libertyville. We are leaving the village at 10 o'clock. If anybody's interested, we're going to carpool from the village, leaving at 10. The tour is 10:30 to 11:30, and then we're going out to lunch at Wildberry after. So please contact me or the village if you're interested in joining us. Right now we have 12 people going.
Georgiana, one question. When they did the cleanup behind by Avon Field there, that one section where they cleaned up
The buckthorn?
the buckthorn and everything else.
Yes.
What are they going to do? Are they going to go back in there and clean it up a little bit more? Are we going to spread mulch in there or something? Or what's, you know, I
Do
was
you
just
want me
like,
to answer that?
Well, I know for a fact that there will be shrubs and trees that will be put in there that are native species to add to the screening that the neighbors did have from the invasive species.
That's a small portion. The rest is seeding. They have additional cleanup to
yeah,
do.
that's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, because I met with Dave recently on that, yeah.
I wasn't sure about that. Are they going to go deeper in also a little bit?
Not at this time, later on, that's a later phase, yeah. Okay. I'm glad, I was remiss in mentioning other activities that took place this weekend, Georgiana. Number one, a big thank you from Relay for Life. Saturday, they had a truck out in front of Public Works from 8 to 1 o'clock, collecting clothing and jewelry and gently used items. And so they were very pleased with the turnout, and they thank you. And of course, I told them they're welcome to contact us again if they'd like to do a drive that raises money for the American Cancer Society. And that is the Round Lake, Grays Lake group that ran that. And then also our local business, Beer Bazaar, celebrated their 1-year anniversary and had a small, intimate craft beer festival that took place Saturday 1 to 5 over at Union Square Park. And even with the weather, amazing turnout. My husband and I stopped by. I stopped by right before setup to make sure everything was going good. They sold 140 tickets online, and then they were selling tickets still as walk-ups. And it was a nice crowd. If the weather had been even nicer, I think it would have been a gangbuster day. But even still, very nice setup, very well organized, well run, nice acoustic guitar, soft in the background, and an excellent food vendor. So they hope to do it again, and I would say that we should support them doing it again, because the residents were there, were very excited, and it drew people from as far away as Elgin.
Wow.
Yeah, so excited. Anyway, let's get on with business. The first item up. All right, Georgiana has one more announcement.
I wasn't able to get this out on the newsletter, but the garage sale will be the first weekend in August. I think it's the 1st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 3. I know there have been questions about that already.
Okay, so, and that will be in the next newsletter?
Yes.
As well, and we'll get it on the website, but at least the dates are August 1st and 2nd.
It's on the website.
It is on the website. Okay, thank you. Okay, I have to get my long legal jargon here, because our first item up is the ordinance amending the village zoning map. And I think I have to read that long, lengthy thing then. I'm going to ask for a motion for approval.
So,
No, I have to read it first. Sorry. Concerning the application and zoning change on the following properties: 372 Main Street, also known as 172 Fairlawn Drive, prior to February 1st, 2015, 380 Main Street, 384 Main Street, 386 Main Street, 390 Main Street, 394 Main Street, 396 Main Street, and 232 Main Street. And yes, I have to read this again. After review of the application submitted by the petitioner and the information and testimony presented at the public hearing, the Zoning Board of Appeals made the following findings of fact: that the proposed zoning map amendment to change the zoning of the subject properties, just as I listed, located on the north side of Route 134, also known as Main Street, west of Fairlawn Drive in the village of Hainesville, from the R2 district to the B1 commercial business district, meets the Illinois case law standards that must be met before a zoning map may be amended. Do I have a motion for approval of this amendment to the zoning?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Kreese.
Aye.
Duberstein.
Aye.
Daley.
Aye.
And Hein.
Aye.
Motion carried. Ordinance number 15-4-204.
Okay, the next item up is an ordinance amending Chapter 208 of the Village Code, eliminating standing committees and creating a committee of the whole. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Kreese.
Aye.
Duberstein.
Aye.
Daley.
Aye.
And Hein.
Aye.
Motion carried. Ordinance number 15-4-205.
Next, we have a motion to change the time of the board meetings from 7 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., effective starting June 9th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Kreese.
Aye.
Duberstein.
Aye.
Daley.
Aye.
And Hein.
Aye.
Motion carried. We'll make all the changes on this.
Okay. And then the last item up is a motion to accept the bid agreement with Chicagoland Paving Contractors Incorporated for 2015 pavement patching not to exceed $75,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustees Darrenowski.
Aye.
Kreese.
Aye.
Duberstein.
Aye.
Daley.
Aye.
And Hein.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So.
All in favor? Aye.